Morning, everyone. This EAGI committee will now come to order. It is now 10:16 a.m. on this Monday, April 22nd, 2024, and we are here at the Senate chambers of the Jesus P. Mafnas Memorial Building of the NMI Legislature. And I want to welcome everyone to the Senate chambers. We will begin our confirmation hearing this morning of Dr. Jack Angello, nominated by Governor Palacios and Lieutenant Governor Appleton to serve as a member of the Commonwealth Public Utilities Corporation Commission. Buenos días and bienvenido lo que para todos hamza ni manehega gweno huzungi salan mizu gi Facebook zani YouTube gohu si Selena Babauta za gohu no gumehelului estina comitea EAGI. Before proceeding with our order of business for today, I would like to take care of some administrative matters first. We appreciate minimal distractions, and we ask that everybody please turn off your electronic devices or put them on silent mode, including the members. First, secondly, we are live on Facebook and YouTube, and if for any reason we need to take a break, Facebook will continue to stream live without the audio. At this time, I will recognize our LA, Devin Macaronis, to call the roll of the committee.
Senator Selena Arpa,
Present.
Senator Karina L. Magofin,
Present.
Senator Paul A. Manglonia, Senator Donald M. Manglonia.
Present.
Madam Chair, all members of the Senate EAGI committee are present.
Thank you, Mr. Macaronis. With all members present, we have established the quorum to conduct today's official meeting. Also, to get you acquainted with our professional staff from the Legislative Bureau, we have our counsel, Mr. Joe Bermudez, our LA, as you heard him earlier, Mr. Devin Macaronis, our IT assistant, Mr. Delbert Camacho, and we have two Sergeant-at-Arms present in the chamber this morning. We have our senior Sergeant-at-Arms, Mr. Pedro Tawai, and our other Senate Sergeant-at-Arms, Mr. John De Leon Guerrero. And also assisting in the committee in the chamber this morning is Mr. L.J. Castro from the Youth Congress office. Now we move on to the adoption of the agenda, and I will recognize Senator Donald Manglonia for the proper motion.
I move to adopt today's agenda.
Thank you. Motion has been made and it has been seconded. Are there any objections to the motion? With no objections being raised, today's agenda is hereby duly adopted. And moving on, we now invite Mr. Paul Regis to join us in the chamber with the nominee to formally introduce the candidate to the committee. Mr. Regis, you may begin when you're ready.
Good morning, Hafaday and Tiro, Chairwoman Selena Arbabauta, and honorable members of the Executive Appointments and Government Investigations Committee. For record purposes, my name is John Paul B. Regis, Acting Special Assistant for the Administration under the Office of the Governor. On behalf of Honorable Governor Arno I. Palacios and the Honorable Lieutenant Governor David M. Appleton, I thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. I am here to introduce Dr. John, also known as Jack Angello, who's been renominated by the Governor and Lieutenant Governor to serve on the Public Utilities Commission. Dr. Angello is a pioneer who served as a general manager for the Saipan Sports Complex under the Marianas General Corporation from 1978 to 1979, was the first Saipan television reporter in the CNMI for Saipan Cable TV from 1979 to 1980, and was appointed as the Governor's Public Information and Protocol Officer from 1981 to 1984. Dr. Angello then moved to the CNMI public school system, where he became a previous teacher of mine at Hobo Junior High School from 1985 to 1986 before continuing his master's at San Jose State University. He returned to Saipan in 1989 and became the vice principal at the Marianas High School for a year before serving as a Tinian High School principal from 1990 to 1992. He pursued higher education at the University of Southern California from 1993 to 1996 before returning to Saipan as a director of Vocational Apprenticeship Division from 1996 to 2002 at the Northern Marianas College. From 2004 to 2006, he served as a paralegal for the Sinamay Office of the Attorney General before becoming a legislative consultant for the Sinamay Legislature from 2006 to 2008. He served his first 2 year full-time and the following years part-time. He then served as a principal and head teacher for the Ladera International School from 2007 to 2011. Dr. Angelo then became the master teacher for Title I program 2013 and retired from the Sinamay Public School on 2024. He then served on the Public Utilities Commission from June to 2023, which expires this month, April 2024. Dr. Angelo graduated from the San Diego State University with a Bachelor's of Arts in Communication and Dramatic Arts in 1970, received his Master's of Arts in Instructional Technology from San Jose State University in 1989, and obtained his Doctor of Education in Instructional Technology with a minor in School Administration and Legal Affairs from University of Southern California in 1996. Governor Palacios and Lieutenant Governor Apatang placed their full, complete trust and confidence on Dr. Angelo to serve on the Public Utilities Commission. I know he stands ready to answer your questions and presents his plans for the future. His extensive professional background, credentials, and dedication to serving the Commonwealth in this capacity make him a qualified individual, and we kindly request for your favorable approval. Madam Chair, thank you, Jesus Moasis and Gilisa, for the opportunity to introduce him to this august body.
Jesus Moasis, Senor Regis. We will now move on to the next portion of our agenda, which is public comments. If anyone is here to provide public comments, I ask that you keep your comments limited to 5 minutes, and please introduce yourself to the committee for the record.
There we go. Thank you. Good morning, Chairwoman and Senators. My name is James Cyrock. I'm the current chairman of the Commonwealth Public Utility Commission. I'm here to provide comments on the nomination of Mr. Angelo, Dr. Angelo. I support that nomination. I've had the opportunity to work with Mr. Angelo for the last year on the commission. He serves as an officer. He serves as the secretary and treasurer. He's also the chairperson of our telecommunications committee. Throughout the last year, he has been helpful, very helpful on our works that we do in our deliberations. And while we haven't done much in the sense of having hearings with the regulated entities, the issues that we've had to deal with in our meetings that deal with administrative matters, it's very, how should I say, I'm very thankful that I have Mr. Angelo as a commissioner on the commission. His ability to provide the help and the support that he has already done is really, really appreciative, and I wouldn't be able to provide the service without his presence on the committee. So I really, really support the renomination of Mr. Angelo, and I hope that this committee approves that nomination. Thank you.
Jesus Moasis, Senor Cyrock. The floor is still open for public comments. If there are none, we will move along to new business. And for the record, the committee did not receive any letters or testimonials in opposition of the nomination of Dr. Angelo. Today, we will evaluate the nomination of Dr. Jack Angelo, and this nomination requires the advice and consent of both the House of Representatives and the Senate. And this hearing is part of our democratic process, wherein the legislature exercises its authority under the Constitution and laws provided to either recommend confirming your nomination or rejecting your nomination. And that is why we are here today. And I know this would probably sound like deja vu. We've had Dr. Angelo here not even less than a year ago vetting his nomination. So we will forego all those preliminary questions and we really just have follow-up questions for you since you've been sitting on the CPUC. And I just want to state for the record that Dr. Angelo was nominated on April 5th, 2024, pursuant to 4 CMC Section 8403. And I now invite Mr. Macaronis. And Mr. Angelo, would you please rise and raise your right hand? Mr. Macaronis will administer the oath to you at this time.
Dr. John A. Angelo, you do solemnly swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you shall give in the matter at hand shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
You may be seated, Dr. Angelo. Thank you. If you would like to make any opening remarks, you may do so at this time.
I mainly want to say I appreciate the opportunity to be here in front of this august body, Madam Chair, members of the Senate, staff. Everybody's been very efficient, and I do enjoy being here and asking for your approval for my nomination. I'll stand on my record. I appreciate Mr. Cyrock and his comments. I do take the matter of being a commissioner very seriously, and we're trying our best to get the commission back on track. And if I am approved, I will continue that business. We've had obstacles. I think some of them you are aware of, and we have to overcome these obstacles, and we will, for the betterment of the public and CUC and the other utility entities. This small island's like a family. I've been here 46 years. I feel maybe I got 2% Chamorro Carolinian blood in me now. And maybe someday I can be able to buy a piece of land. But anyway, I do like the fact that I've seen people now, I'm aging myself, but like JP, Paul, a former student, all these other young people that are coming up through the ranks in government positions and private sector. And they've been my students and they've been successful. And that is what I always preach to my students. And now as a commissioner, I preach to, not preach, but I join in the conversation of making a more stable utilities entities on this island. We are subject to problems that I think can be erased. We're like a stepchild to certain entities like Docomo. The main office is on Guam, and part of my pursuit is to have Guam come here and explain why Saipan doesn't have more managerial power in our Saipan problems. We have problems here that are unique to Guam, but every time as a citizen, go in and ask for help, I'm always referred to Guam. And it's like, why can't we have this done here on Saipan? In my area right now, we have almost every other day outages. And I wrote a letter when I was not a commissioner. I wrote it as a private citizen because I didn't want to put pressure that I'm a commissioner and I'm forcing them to do something. But I just wrote a letter asking them, why are we having these continuous outages? We have this new fiber optic. We have all these, up-to-date systems, so to speak, and it keeps going down. And they say their equipment fails them out in the field. And I brought up, why can't these be fixed? And they say they have parts on order from Guam and they're waiting for them. And for me, that bothers me in that I pay $200 plus a month for just the internet and TV. And I'm paying a premium price, and I'd like to see state-of-the-art product, for what I pay. So I think having Guam come here and putting some pressure on them and also asking them to give Saipan more managerial power, I think we can solve some of these problems. In my past, I've been manager of certain enterprises here on Saipan that had the main office on Guam. And I fought this. I think everybody realized what a stepchild syndrome is. It's like we're like, the stepchild. Guam is the first child. They take care of everything there, but then we get the leftovers. Like on my TV, just as an anecdote, I had 3 different remotes, and I kept asking them, why weren't the remotes working before when I had TiVo? And they said, these are leftovers from Guam. And I said, if I'm buying the system, I want one out of the box. So the tech guy, he said, I'll help you. I have one in the box in my truck. And he brought it to me. And he asked me not to make it known because he could get in trouble, because this remote was for him to do testing. And I said, we customers should get remotes out of the box, not these leftovers from Guam or secondhand. So this is systematic problems of what's going on with us on Saipan. CUC, again, it's a organization that's massive, and it's the heart of Saipan, and it needs support from the commission, from the governor's office, from the Senate, the House. We all need to support, but we also, in our position as a commissioner, if I am approved, we are in a position to regulate. And I take that seriously, in the fact that we're not dictators, but we're regulators, and ask them to comply with the laws and make rates, if they're justifiable, bring them towards to the commission, and then they are reviewed by outside consultants, and then we reach a good balance where it's fair for the customer and also for CUC. So that's basically my philosophy, in that I think fairness, hard work from everybody, and still enjoy the island lifestyle. Thank you, Madam Chair, for having me here today, and the honorable senators.
Thank you, Dr. Angelo, and I want to thank you also for your many years of service to the seat of my government as a private citizen and as well as a government employee. At this time, we will go ahead and move into the question and answer portion, and I will first recognize Senator Corina Magofnia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Half a day and good morning, Dr. Angelo. Welcome
morning.
back.
Thank you. Yeah.
I know it's only been a few months since your last confirmation, but nevertheless, thank you for accepting the renomination.
Well, it's nice to be here again.
Yes. For me, I guess I just probably want to ask some updates from when you got confirmed. In your opening remarks, you had mentioned that there are some obstacles. Would you care to elaborate a little bit on those obstacles and provide us some updates if you have any?
Well, the major obstacle facing the commission is that for the entire time I was there, we operated with no money. And this I felt strange. I asked, and I knew how it was set up because I was instrumental in writing the legislation way back when we converted from the CTC, I think they call it Telecommunications Commission, to then the Public Utilities Commission. And in it was the fact that the money operating or supporting the commission would be a self-sustaining situation where we wouldn't be a burden on the taxpayers and the public again. We would receive an assessment from the utilities based on a percentage, fair percentage, and that would be put into an account. Back in 2014 or 15, in that time frame, the commissioner asked to create his own account in a bank, First Hawaiian Bank, because he objected or had problems with getting money out of the Department of Finance. Just took too long because you have to bring in hearing officers, attorneys, consultants, and they want to be paid in a timely manner. And so they had this system. Well, the commission went dormant back in roughly 2014. And for up till the time last year, when Mr. Cyrock and myself were nominated, the commission finally got a quorum. So you had a period of what, 6, 8 plus 3, 9 years, roughly 10 years of no commission. And this creates problems. There's no oversight. And everybody on this island, even the governor, needs oversight. And there are things in laws and our regulations that create oversight. Impeachment, criminal activity, et cetera, et cetera. Not to point fingers, but we all need oversight. As a teacher, I knew that for sure because my students, every one of my students, whether they like me, I always explain to them, not here as your friend, I'm here as your teacher. At the end of the year, hopefully we're friends at that time. But meanwhile, I have to oversee your education to make you grow and be, stable and strong. So the matter of the financial part was murky, and I was tasked with finding out about this First Hawaiian Bank account. And I went to First Hawaiian and asked them what they needed. And they said they needed some type of commission approval for me to ask. And I got the approval, the commission, they voted. So I went back with a letter. And then they had to confer with their attorneys in Hawaii. And after that, I finally got a statement that the account was closed in 2016. I asked who closed it, and they said they didn't have that information. Well, and then at the end, from 170,000, it dropped down to about 15,000. And I asked if that money could still be used by the commission. And they said it was subject to, I believe the term is escheatment, where unclaimed money in a bank account will go to the government. And that money was transferred to the government in 2018. And I knew that money wouldn't be there if we asked for it, because after so many years, it was gone. So we had zero money. And we all met on a regular basis, monthly, the commissioners that were on board at that time last year. And without getting our stipend, but we all expressed, I expressed, I'm not here for the money at this time. I'm here to try to get the commission back on track with the great help from our chairman, who is an attorney and worked for CUC and knows a lot about the islands and what transpires here. So we got a small assessment from one of the entities, ITNE, I believe, and following the precedent before, we opened an account, but we went to the governor's office with the Secretary of Finance to have it blessed, because in going through the law, it did state in there that monies should go to the Department of Finance. And we wanted a clarification, like before, did they get a waiver? But I don't think you get a waiver. A law has to be amended. You don't get a waiver from a law. It sort of has to go through the amendment process. So we found out at that point that that account that was open, we would keep dormant, not touch it until we got this thing clarified. And what we came up to is, and was agreed upon by the governor, Secretary of Treasury, and our finance, and our commission, Jim and myself who were there, I would draft amendments to the current law that monies could be put into the CUC, because the PUC is autonomous, independent. And the amendments were to the point of the monies assessed, delivered to the PUC, would be put into a PUC account, and it would be budgeted. We can hire and take care of business. And at the end of the year, it would be subject to OPA. So we would have oversight. The money would be all accounted for, and OPA would govern the actions of what we did. So we felt this would be a good idea. So we did submit amendments to the House with our chairman's updates and approvals of the amendments that I wrote. and the House is favorable. Even during my previous hearing, both the Senate and the House mentioned that there should be more financial autonomy for the PUC. And that's one thing that we're trying to get passed and through to create a more smooth operation and more viable. So even in this time, we put in for stipends last December for our meetings in 2023. And up until this time, it has not been approved. It's gone through, 5 different steps or hoops, so to speak. So this is can be detrimental to a functioning commission. The other situation we have is the utilities are now facing assessments. They haven't been really assessed for the previous 8 years, even though they still had to pay technically by the law. And so our chairman put together a information sheet for each utility, sent it out for their assessments. And there's been reluctance of these utilities to pay them or pay the assessment. They figured that we've been dormant. And then currently there's no quorum now in the commission again. And I think they're taking, personally, I think they're taking advantage of it maybe. And if we have a full commission, we had money, we would immediately call for a hearing and pinch any utility who's trying to circumvent the law. It's in the law. If you want the law changed, go to the legislature and ask them to change the assessment part of the law. And okay, then that would settle it. But until that time, we all have to do our job and do the right thing. Those are the two major, I think, things that are most troubling. Others are people coming to me, just, I'm talking personally, thinking that I can change and do favors and, and I say, believe me, as a commissioner, I have a duty bound by law as a regulator. I'll hear your problems and I'll make note of them. And eventually, if we bring in a utility, I could, as a commissioner, bring these up to the utilities, just saying certain customers have these concerns and wanting, their response. One of them would be all the estimations from CUC on billing. Sometimes I get stories that are like, one person who I met, he said that he and his young daughter, a single parent, is being assessed $800 a month for water, and it's only himself and his daughter. And I said, have you gone to CUC and put forth your concern? He says, I work for CUC. And I went, wow, that's interesting. And have they answered? He says, not yet. And I felt sorry in a way for this hardworking, because he was in the trenches. He's not in upper management, and I don't think he was making the big bucks. So it was a strain on him. So again, these type of things I think need to be helped by the commission as far as we're allowed. And hopefully then we become back to this feeling of small island family helping each other. So again, that's basically my philosophy. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you very much, Dr. Angello, for the clarification. So just to confirm, so there was when you looked into the bank account at FHB, there was 170,000, and then it dropped to 15,000 by the time the account was closed. And First Hawaiian Bank has no information as to who closed the account.
They just
Or is
said
it just automatically closed because it's been dormant for
they said
quite some time?
someone closed it.
Someone closed
And
it.
I found from the 180 to 15, I'm not accusing the commission or anybody. I believe from the statement, there were withdrawals paying, I saw like attorney's fees and hearing officer. So I believe they were, when it was going dormant, that these legal outside people came in and tried to get paid for what they had been doing. So the 15, like I say, that was lost. And so again, it was just, to me, a sad situation that a very important commission was basically set adrift
Sure.
and not being able to do their job.
Okay. And normally when there's dormant accounts and they're closed by the banks, it goes into this account that Commerce oversees. So have you had a chance to reach out to Commerce to see if whatever money that was remaining in that account and that was transferred over, from the information that I got from Commerce is that they're in the process of reconciling that particular account, so it's
Yes, we
possible that
we met with the governor and brought this concern, and we understood that there are times, like time limits, when an account holder can go in and claim. If it goes past a certain amount of time, it goes into I believe, the government coffers,
Yes.
possibly. And since it was almost 5 years, the governor just smiled, and we smiled back, saying, it could have, gone probably in something, hopefully to good use for the
Sure.
government. But I pretty much thought, it would be not there. But if Commerce says they could still find it, we're not going to reject it.
Sure. Well, I would recommend verifying what that statute of limitation period is, right, for when that money just goes into the government coffers. Because if you still have time, I mean, it wouldn't hurt to, ask Commerce back for that money if it's still there.
Yeah, we put the request in through the governor's office, but I think you're right, saying going right to the
Sure.
Secretary of Commerce. If I'm approved and go back to my position as treasurer, I'd probably get approval from the commission to have a letter, and we approach the secretary to get it in black and white.
Sure.
So again, I like to have that, for you senators and the public to know that we're doing our due diligence. And if the money is there, then if we can receive it. But if the money would not go back to the commission at this point, it would go back to the Secretary of Finance.
Right.
And then we're in that same quandary of it's just long periods of time to get that money out for us to function.
Okay. So I'm curious, with the commission having a zero budget, how are things being paid for when you guys conduct your meetings or whatever type of work you guys have to
Well,
work on?
Mr. Cyrock, our chairman, is paying for the announcements in the papers. And we don't charge for our meetings. The commissioners, our presence. We brought in, past year, IT&E, utilities, CUC, and had invited Docomo just prior to my being expiration of my term. And so that's on the agenda as soon as we get the quorum back to.
Okay.
And we're bringing these entities in to basically let them know that this is what's coming. As soon as we're able to. We have no office. We have no administrative staff. I put a letter into the SAA asking for one of the abandoned or empty houses to save rent. Trying our best to be fiscally responsible. And so I was waiting on that. But if I am approved, I would pursue that further to get an office and then get our basic administrative staff. But like I say, we all did everything sort of basically on our own dime. And I had no problem with it. And the other, Mr. Baza, Kiruar, the chairman, nobody really complained, as far as I know.
Okay.
But yeah, it's, when you're on the islands and you love the islands, sometimes you show love and money comes second. But nothing wrong with having a few bucks. So yeah, we hope it gets basically the main thing we're pushing for, and hopefully it would be passed, is that House legislation. And when it comes to this Senate, we hope it's reviewed and approved by the Senate. And then I know the governor agreed that he would sign to get us back on, into a viable commission. And then we can do the business that we need to do. When the utilities come in, we will ask them for, if they have any rates in mind, and remind them that they have to petition the commission for a rate increase. Then we have to go through the steps and make sure that it's, fair for both sides.
Sure. Well, thank you for your response. And speaking of rate increase, which is one of the hottest topics every time, the CUC rate goes up. I believe there was a discussion, or the topic came up where there was a rate study that will be conducted by PUC, or CUC was saying something about waiting on the commission to uh, obtain the rate study in order for them to, update their rates. Has there been a
So
study?
you say CUC is waiting for the Commonwealth Public Utilities to come up with a rate study?
Yes, I believe that in order
I
to,
think that's putting the cart in front of the horse. I think normally the procedure is CUC petitions the commission with their rate study.
I believe that was done in the past, but because there wasn't a quorum for the commission at the time,
Right.
it was never done. And I think that was one of the list on the priorities when the commission was trying to be brought back, is to finish the rate study that CUC has requested so that they
Yeah,
can.
we're aware of, it goes back to year 2014 or 15,
Mhm.
which I hear, or I see it cited in the paper by the CUC that they had some type of increase or something passed, I don't know, a couple of months ago. And they said, well, we have to because we're bound by the decision of the PUC back in 2015.
Mhm.
And I think that was never a completed process, because it does take the CPUC, some time to have their rate study done by an outside
Right.
firm. So it's objective and done by, a qualified rate, industry firm. And then that rate study compares with the CUC rate study.
Mhm.
So then when they see differences and they don't come to a conclusion or agreement, then it goes to the hearing process. And then we have a hearing officer, which we have to bring in. And so all these things take
Right.
salape. And we are operating with basically PUGA. And these attorneys, especially from the States, they don't accept PUGA. I would, but they won't.
Okay, great. Thank you for the update. That's
Okay,
all I have,
Senator.
Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Magona. I just have a couple of questions, Dr. Angelo.
Yes, Chairman.
But you answered one of them. I was going to ask, where is the CPUC office, and is it accessible to the public? But you answered that earlier, that CPUC does not have a permanent office to operate out of. One of my concerns, and I'm pretty sure it's out of CPUC's lane, but when Public Works and CUC were married, and they were housed over at the lower
Lower
base.
base.
When they were separated, for some reason, DPW was stuck with paying the street lights or public lights, like for the roads and other public areas, common public areas. And I'm still trying to wrap my head around that, why Public Works is responsible for that. And then yet, when we ask for streetlights, we have to go ask CUC. So if possible, because you have a relationship with the CUC corporation, if you could look into that and ask them why that situation is the way it is. I think CUC should be paying for the streetlights as opposed to Public Works. But like I said, when they were separated years ago, pursuant to the covenant, I think it is, that portion of the separation didn't migrate over to CUC. Maybe it's selective. I don't know the history of that, but that's all I wanted to relate to you.
Well, that's a very good concern, and I was part of that during that time when DPW did have the power plant under their
Yes.
operations. Governor Tenorio, rest in peace, Teno, he assigned me to John Pangilinan as part of my job to be a liaison, with the public and the power plant. Like, being PIO, I had to update if there were going to be outages, et cetera, et cetera. And anything that I could do from my office and convey to the governor with John, we worked together. And streetlights, the governor is very generous and he was a great person. And he always made sure that lights were installed. And of course, then it was a part of the administration and public works to take care of the lights for the safety of the people. That was our main concern for driving and for the public, walking on certain streets. Later, after I was in that position, that office, then they had separated. And then that's when I started hearing stories about this PUC or CUC saying it's DPW's, that's their problem. And DPW goes, oh, no, that's CUC problems. And I see these things, and anything that the CPUC could do to solve this, I would take it and ask the commission for a vote to do a study and get down to the nitty and find out who should be responsible and say that you are responsible. And make it into I don't know if we were allowed as a commission we couldn't mandate them, but bring the concern back to the legislature, and maybe there's a law that could be passed that could, from the recommendation of the commission, this should be done for the safety of the public and for the, concerns of the public, because we have several streets that are not lit.
Yes.
They're very dark. And even the other night, I was driving home and I was driving my lane and I suddenly had to swerve because a car was coming towards me that had only one headlight working, and it was not working quite right. And I don't know, if it was the left headlight. I got to get this thing out. I'm beating the heck out of it. If it was the left headlight, and was a car in front of me, or I couldn't tell, or even if was it a motorcycle. So I went off into the grass, and this car, older car, of course, with a lot of mechanical problems, came by me. But if there were street lights in that area, I could have noticed that a lot sooner. And I came close to hitting this vehicle head on. So it's a good concern, and I think it should be finally a decision should be made.
One of the other concerns I have is that, as you know, as everybody or many people now know, that taxpayers are partially paying for the arrears of CUC and the central government. It's embedded in their
Billings.
FAC, the fuel adjustment
Right.
charge. So recently we read in the papers that the administration has now come up with an installation plan with in agreement with CUC. They came to an agreement as to how much they were going to be paying towards those arrears per month. And I believe they're current. My serious concern is, and I'm sure I speak for many of the people out there who are watching or who know of the situation with the fuel adjustment charge. The minute that plan, and it may be a coincidence, but I find it to be a very interesting coincidence that the minute this agreement between CUC and the administration or central government was solidified, all of a sudden CUC board now is planning to raise their salaries once again. And I'm very concerned about that, and I intend to speak at their board meeting later on this week in against that. I don't see how they could come current with the receivable accounts when they continue to raise their salaries. And I'm not against the increase of salaries for government employees. Lord knows we've stalled it on, or the central government has stalled it for many, many years. And people have not received their merit increases or their within grade increases. But when CUC, a corporation like CUC, has failed their mandates to the people, and the first thing they conjure up is to raise their salaries as soon as some funds come in, I think there's a serious management problem there, issue that needs to be addressed immediately. I will yield at this time.
I agree with you, Chair.
I will yield at this time to other members of the committee. I will recognize Senator Donald Minglonia.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, Dr. Angelo.
Morning, Senator.
I know you mentioned earlier that you've proposed some amendment to the statute. I know you also brought up challenges you've had with accessing funds that were deposited into some account. But the way I see the commission collects fees, I don't think there are any challenges in regards to how to expend those funds, with the understanding that once these fees are collected, all the House or the legislature has to do is appropriate it right away. And so I just wanted to see what were your challenges in trying to start assessing fees and collecting fees and hold it within Department of Finance until such time an appropriation bill gets through the legislature. From looking at the review of rates under the statute, you have every right to start assessing fees on the regulatory agencies. And so has the commission started at least collecting fees and then at least depositing that into the Department of Finance until such time you're able to use it?
Our chairman has been very responsible in this activity of assessing fees. And every utility that is subject to assessments, they have been given billings. And we received one payment from IT&E for, I believe, $7,000. That was put into a bank account, which is now dormant, because until we get this clarified on where the money should go. There is some money that was budgeted for the CPUC by the legislature, but that went into the Secretary of Finance and the Department of Finance. And if you want, I could provide you with copies of emails since last December, our requests for action from the Department of Finance, just on a few $100s that we put in for stipends, for our meetings and for materials that Mr. Cyril paid for. So it's now April, almost end of April, 4 months, 5 months, just for a couple $100. I don't believe that is conducive for a commission to be able to operate in a viable way. And if we're dealing with hearing officers and attorneys and outside consultants and major issues about the rates of the utilities, and we have to wait 5-6 months for it to be, maybe one word or phrase is not in there right, so we have to reprogram it or ask for reprogramming or wait for this person to come from leave and et cetera, et cetera. And I think we're all aware of government operations. It's just systemic in it takes time. And the cure would be for the commission, since it is autonomous, independent, just have their own accounts and run them. They're still subject to government oversight by the OPA.
Right.
And then
while you're waiting for that to come through the legislature or even with the Department of Finance, are you continuously assessing these fees onto the different regulatory agencies?
Yes.
I know you mentioned IT&E, but have you done so with
CUC as now their position is, and to me, it's a little bit shocking. They notified our chairman that they feel they don't have to pay the assessment. Doesn't that bother you? It bothers me. They say they're going to put some money into a trust fund until they get this thing clarified. I think it's in the law as it stands that they pay an assessment, but they are deciding to not pay their assessment.
Do you have your AG, or are you required to get outside private counsel? Have you been assigned
We're independent of the AG. It's a matter, we are basically going on, our chairman is an attorney, but he acts as a chairman of the commission. But common sense, he's asking for, they say they're going to send the commission a letter. And again, I'm saying that the chairman is taking care of it. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Justified. Okay, excuse me. The chairman who has been active on this mentioned that the AG represents the CUC, and they've been advising the chairman that they're going to withhold payment until the commission justifies their expenses. So there's all these obstacles and roadblocks to getting money so we can operate. And again, I mean, I cannot speak because I'm not approved yet as a commissioner. I'm speaking, believe me, right now as a citizen. This bothers me. I don't know if it does, it should bother any person of the CNMI that you have agencies that seem to be their own empires, basically, and they do what they want to do because they're not being regulated or pinched or oversight. There's no oversight. So this has happened before. There's other examples. And as a citizen, I see CPA overcharging airlines and they all stop flying here. Suddenly new management has gone in and are saying, hey, sorry, we'll lower the rates. Come on back. We're tourism here. So there's things here that just need to be addressed. And this is, one of them that I see as a citizen now. Once approved, if I am a commissioner, then I would help our chairman and help the citizens and get things black and white. This gray area where we don't have to pay, you have to give us a justification. We assess, the commission assessed them based on a percentage based on the law. And then, and we did submit a budget previously, and I was there as a commissioner. We submitted a budget, and the chairman of the board of CUC, she agreed with it, even asked us to raise our budget higher and approved it. She agreed. So again, now we have to go through another whole step of, justifying, and they've been advised by the, their attorney, whatever, not to give us or the commission money. So I plan to battle for the CNMI within the commissioner's powers to make things done right. And that's my main objective. I've been here long enough to know, and I've worked for basically every branch of government here. I know the ins and outs, and I know the majority of people here do work together, but every now and then something pops up and they start to, button heads. And who suffers? The people. Because rates could go up, salaries go up. So we're just trying to make sense of the situation and get a fair assessment of the whole operation.
And I'm more concerned in trying to get the commission to access those funds so that you can hire private counsel or whatever need be, so that you can go after these, agencies to collect what is owed to the commission, so that you can become what the law says, self-sustaining, right? But then absent any access to those funds. I know that, I'm not sure what the situation is with these private banks, but I mean, the law states to that these monies shall be deposited with finance, and then whatever money you have available, the legislature will appropriate, just like with any other. I mean, as a matter of fact, last week we had to appropriate monies collected by Cannabis Commission. So this would probably be no different with the Utilities Commission.
Well, the money collected on the assessments would not go to the legislature for appropriation. It goes directly into the finance coffers, the assessment.
And then it's placed in a revolving fund account, which
we are having a very big problem of being able to use based on the bureaucracy of the situation.
Yeah.
And again, that's why the governor agreed on, and even the Secretary of Finance on our meeting, she agreed that it would probably be better if CPUC had independent use of their money subject to the OPA, which we are fully agreed. So again, I think this would help the commission operate and be able to use the money and bring in hearing officers, consultants right then, because these people want to know when they're going to get paid. And sometimes it's a retainer, maybe possibly, or upfront some money. So we can't wait 5 months like we have been waiting for our $100 stipends. So
yeah, okay, all right. Can you share with the committee at a later time what those legislations are that you've submitted or recommendations are? I don't think we've seen any here in the Senate yet, but if you have the same proposal you provided to the House, if that can be made available to the Senate, we'll look over those also. But
yes, I'll pass it on to the chairman.
thank you.
That request of yours and about the House bill that is it's in the process with the House, and and I think Senator Paul is aware of it, and just knowing of it, and that being the chairman of PUC, and the governor is in full approval of these amendments to streamline. He was even asking us if he should create an executive order, and I said for me and the chair, would rather have a House bill or a legislative bill. So then it mean more, the legislature would be involved instead of just executive orders are fine in emergencies, but this is something I think, the House and the Senate should be a part of the process.
Mm-hmm. Another thing that you brought up during your opening statement is that you've had some challenges with, a particular company. Have you, as commissioners, exercised your full power to like go in there and request for all these documents and all these? They can't hold back, right? If you request for these documents and start looking at their whether it be finances or regulations or SOPs, is that something that you've started to do and look at what changes
that has been
you
done?
Can propose?
The initial is being done by the chairman at this time, and then later, if I'm approved, I could follow up by again. Everything was like starting from scratch, getting assessments in. There was a reluctance by some of the communication utility entities to pay the assessment. It's like they were a little bit taken aback because it hadn't been assessed for such a long time. So now they're getting used to that there will be an annual assessment, and then the next step would be a investigation of their rates, their plans, how they go about their equipment and delivery of the product, whatever we can do within the commission, and like explanations of why so many outages. And if we had it in black and white and backed up, then I think the public would be more transparent. As a citizen, I'm just told that, it's nothing we can do right now, Saipan, because they don't have the parts yet from Guam or, come up some other thing. It's being discussed by the officials on Guam. And that I would like to, if I was a commissioner, and if I could as a commissioner, and find out why Saipan management can't solve these problems for the Saipan residents. Mm-hmm. It seems to be like going through a different, management system on Guam.
But within your powers, you can call a hearing and then bring in all these executives and explain to the commission why that is. But my biggest concern right now at this point, it seems like with you having been in there for a few months now, it's accessing these funds so that you can hire the professional services that you need to push forward a lot of these regulatory changes.
Yes,
And
Senator.
so, maybe after we conclude this hearing, if you can provide any any correspondence between Department of Finance or the bank that you have that we can assist in trying to um, assist in helping you get access to those funds. I know that just off of the top of what I'm reading on the statute, it seems like these have to be within an account with the Department of Finance. And while maybe you can't use it now because it seems like these funds need to get appropriated by the legislature, even if there's money sitting in there. But if you're saying that the general fund provided funds to the commission already, then those don't need to go through any reappropriation. I mean, I don't see what the challenge is in trying to get you to be able to use that. But if you have any other funds that were collected while you've been in the commission through assessing these fees, and maybe the challenge is trying to get you access to those funds that you've already collected, and that would have to go to the legislature. But any records you have that would allow us to assist in trying to get that streamlined for you guys so that you can again get these services you need so that you can perform your duties and not restrict you in the
Right.
process of it. Thank you.
Appreciate your support,
Thank you.
Senator.
I yield at this time.
Thank you, Senator Manglona. I will recognize at this time Senator Paul Manglona.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dr. Angelo, before I ask a question, the bill that they're referring to, because we just met late last week, and I was going to inform the members that House Bill 2397, I think that's the bill that
Yeah,
they're
yes,
talking
Senator.
about. So I guess you can look in our legislative server to that bill. But I don't know whether the House has a substitute bill that they're going to be offering, but that's the number of that legislation. Can I ask you, Dr. Angelo, to talk about the quorum issue presently with PUC to the members?
There's only two active members, Mr. Kitagawa from Rhoda and our chairman, Mr. Cyrock.
And you need 3 for quorum.
3.
Yeah, and I understand also that the chairman has to be off island soon, and with his absence, there won't be any quorum again.
Yes, Senator.
So there's one that's
There's another vacancy.
vacancy from Tinian
and Saipan.
and one vacancy on Saipan presently. So
Yes, Senator.
so we have 2 that we need to I guess get nominees. So absent a quorum for the last 4 years is what you're saying, 5 years, that we didn't have any activity by PUC, and as such, because of that, the regulated agencies are not paying. Is that what we're hearing?
Well, from 2014, that time frame, there was no quorum, and the commission basically went dormant, and there was no reappointments of any commissioners. And so that's 6, 9, close maybe 10 years. And there was no bank account. First,
So I'm
that was
not
close.
going to go in detail, but
Well, anyway, there.
can I just ask, since your chairman who's sitting here is an attorney, and can we come up with a language working with the House and Senate legal counsel on how to stop this? Because it seems like this has been going on forever, right? Where there's not maybe it's not dormant, but for a year or so there was a lack of quorum. We had to come in and amend the law and say, even if there's only one member, that's the quorum, because we're trying to come up with an active PUC to protect the consumers. And it seems
Yes.
like that's always been the challenge. And the excuse has always been, it's a difficult board to fill. Nobody wants the board to be a member of the board. And so, can you come up with a language to strengthen, this agency so that we don't see a vacancy and a dormant body in the future? If you can come up with a language for 2397, we would really appreciate. I see the chairman is back there. If there's no objection, can you want to comment quickly on that?
No objections
But
from-
we'll discuss this on the other bill also when we talk about the other bill. But I just don't want to hear about a dormant board. The
I
chairman?
understand, Senator, the current administration, they have been active in appointing.
Yeah, but it seems like it
Previous
depends on
was,
the administration too.
yeah.
Administration will come along and then they don't want to appoint or there's no appointee.
Yes.
Thank you, Senator Maglona. And I will answer your question, but also, Chair Lady, if I could, after we finish with Mr. Maglona, I'd like to clarify some of the answers that were given, because I think there was I don't want to argue with my nominee here, but some of the answers were not quite accurate, and I wanted to clarify those answers with you so you have a good
No
understanding.
objections, Mr. Sarah.
So the board actually lost its quorum in 2016. We did have the commission did have hearings through 2014 into 2015, but then it did not have any hearings. It lost its quorum when the chairperson, Mr. Guerrero, his term expired. At that time, there was money in the bank account, and there were expenses. The commission had an office that it was paying for. It had staff that it was paying for. It had attorneys that it was paying for. It had a hearing officer that was on salary that was actually an employee. It wasn't a third-party contractor that it was paying for. So those payments ran through 2017. And this is going to go a little bit outside, but I'm going to get back to you a minute. So what happened then is when we were dealing with the assessments, originally there was discussion about making assessments for all of those past years, because as Mr. Angello indicated, even though there wasn't quorum, there's still a commission and there's still an obligation under the law. What ended up happening is we agreed to assessment as such. We agreed to, in 2016, for fiscal year 2016, CUC paid its assessment, which was $137,000. IT&E paid its assessment. There was no assessment on Docomo by the prior utility commission, because under the law, the commission can give a discount to, I said Docomo, I meant the cable TV, could give a discount to the cable TV for public service broadcasting. What the commission decided was, because the expenses of the commission ran into fiscal year 2017, actually all the way up until and through April of 2017, that represented at least 3 months of commission expenses. And then when Mr. Angello and I were confirmed, we started board meetings. We actually started board meetings in July. We were confirmed in June. We started board meetings in July, August, September. So we had 3 months of commission work in fiscal year 2024. So we sent out assessments for 6 months of work that the utilities, CUC, and IT&E should pay for that activity when the commission was really doing activities and had expenses. And then we assessed for fiscal year 24, for the whole fiscal year 24, the annual assessments. IT&E paid that 6-month assessment. The fiscal year 24, they've confirmed to me that they're going to pay that. We assessed Docomo an actual annual fee because we're allowed to do that. Docomo has confirmed to, excuse me, I say Docomo, I meant cable TV. Cable TV has confirmed that they're going to pay that assessment as well. CUC is the one that says, well, I'm not sure we're going to pay that. And I had a conversation with its attorney last week, which is Mr. Hunter Hunt, and he indicated that the CUC corporation was concerned about the expenses and wanted to make sure that the expenses were justified, such that the assessment, which is what the assessment is for, is to pay the administrative expenses of the commission, that those expenses were justified, even though, as Mr. Angello has indicated, the chairman of CUC was at our utility commission meeting together with the representative from IT&E, I allowed them to put input into our deliberations on our budget, and they agreed. They were part of that budget making process, and they agreed to the budget that we formulated and approved. And as Mr. Angelo has indicated, also indicated that they felt the budget was not enough, that we were under budgeted. But so it boggles my mind right now, and I don't want to say anything against Mr. Hunter Hunt or the corporation CUC, but it boggles my mind how they can be concerned about whether or not the expenses that are going to be paid for by the assessment are realistic expenses when they were part of the process of drawing that budget up. Now, we're trying to do what we can do. We haven't been able to do anything at all. It's difficult to even try to do any investigations. We can ask for documents, but we need people to review those documents, people that are knowledgeable in that. We don't have any staff. We don't have an office. We don't have a desk. We don't have a chair. We don't have a printer. We have nothing, because all of that equipment, for some reason, that the commission had in the past has been lost. And as far as that money that was in the bank account, that was reverted back to the CNMI government through the Commerce by the bank because it was a dormant account. The Secretary, Commerce then diverted that back to Secretary of Finance. And we sat down with the Secretary of Finance and the governor, and Mr. Angelo didn't
Mr.
identify
Chairman,
this.
I don't think we should go into the details because we're gonna be addressing that in the House bill.
Okay.
But my concern really in this bill, and that's why I'm asking, is to come up with a language to make sure that we never have a period where PUC is dormant. So we
Right.
need a language where if the governor, whoever in the future, do not appoint members, we can even put a language that whoever, who takes over, there has to be a body that takes over so that there's never any period where these entities that are being regulated don't have anybody regulating them, because that's against the law, and also it's not good for the consumers, right? So that we're dealing with powerful entities. By the way, these are big entities. They can influence the leaders, right? And intentionally, at the end of the day, don't have anybody to regulate them to their financial interests. So we need to have a language that if there's no board, then somebody takes over. So I just need that kind of language, because I remember I was the introducer of an amendment to make even one board member a quorum, but things keep changing, and so please look into that, and so that we make sure. I just want to okay, so going back, you need two more members, right? So is the governor, do you know, have you met with the governor whether they're going to be replacing two new members soon? Because your board, by the way, has to be approved not only by the Senate but by the House, right? So that's going to take a while.
I haven't met with the governor personally. I plan to ask the governor for an appointment, not only to discuss that issue, but also our funding issue as well. So I will be doing that. And the bill that you have in front of you, thank you for acknowledging that we met with you last week. And
Mhm.
the bill that we have was the bill that we were comfortable with now, but I can also go back to the House and talk with their utility chairman, the chairman of their utility
Mm.
committee, and throw in some more language that complies with what you have indicated that you're requesting or would like to see in it.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. I got many questions, but hopefully I would bring them up when we're discussing that bill. But thank you.
Madam Chair, if I may also, Senator Donald Maglona indicated that the money that's collected from the assessments goes into revolving fund, which is true, but it's not the government revolving fund. The enabling statute clearly states that it's a commission revolving funding that's set up
Yes.
totally for the commission, and that money can't be spent for any government expenses, only commission expenses. So that's the current status right now. So, and my understanding, and I'm not going to argue with you in any way, but my understanding is that once it goes into that fund, because it's a commission special fund set up for the commission, there's no need for any further legislative appropriation. I mean, it may be, I don't know, but when I've read the statute, I haven't seen that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cyrock. I have no further questions. Are there any follow-up questions? Recognize Senator Karina McGovern.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Just real quick, may I ask both of you, what are your stands on the idea or concept of private-public partnership for CUC?
You know, this issue, Senator McGoffna, this is Jim Cyrock, also for the record. That issue has come up with some minor discussion during commission meetings, and I've tried to keep the commissioners away from expressing an opinion on that, because at some point in time, that issue is going to come before the commission for approval. And it's sort of like a judge in that sense too. We have to be unbiased, and when we see the reports, when we see the briefings, when we see all of the documents that support that particular how should I say, movement, transition, then we'll be able to give an opinion on that.
Understood. Thank you. I yield, Chair.
Thank you. I have no further questions, and I don't think there's any other questions from the members.
I promise, Madam Chair. And
We
I mentioned this
recognize
because of the question by, I'm going to blame
Senator-
Senator Magofnian. What really bothers me, for example, like when CUC purchased a generator 4 years ago, did you know that because there's no PUC, they allow the vendor to include the cost of the crane, so that when they buy the generator, they bring the crane from Guam to Rhoda, and then from Rhoda back to Guam, the crane. And when you know that there's a stevedoring company that's supposed to provide that service, yet CUC consumers paid for those additional costs. And that's why you're there, right? The purpose of PUC is if they sign an agreement like that, you would have probably called that and say, no, we don't agree, cancel that, right?
This is Jim Cyrock again. That's one of the concerns that the commission has, is that CUC is not providing us with the documents or the request that's needed for approval. Under the enabling statute, those kind of capital investments are supposed to go to the commission for approval. And they didn't in the past, and they're not doing it now. They did make one notification to us that they would be purchasing 2 generators, one for Saipan and one for Rhoda, but that they're not submitting that approval for us until after they get a bid from a prospective seller, and then they will be giving it to us. But we haven't seen anything. That RFP is out. I don't know if they've entertained any bids or if they awarded anything, but they haven't done it. They're supposed to be transmitting the fuel adjustment charges, monthly fuel adjustment charges to us. They're not doing that. There's a lot of other things, and the commission, as indicated from Senator McGoffna, commission's concerned about some of the salaries and expenses. We just heard And again, this is, I don't know if this is true or not, but it's hearsay. We just heard that, for example, the CFO was getting a salary of over $200,000. The CFO. And at that time, that's all I'm going to go. But we'd like to be able to look into these issues, like Senator Donald McLona has indicated. But we need the staffing, we need the money, we need whatever resources we can gather through funding to be able to do that.
Thank you. No further questions from the members? Thank you. At this time, we will close this hearing, and Dr. Angelo, we appreciate you making the time, and as well as the CPUC Chairman, Mr. Syrock, to answer some of our questions and concerns. And at this time, Dr. Angelo, you are hereby dismissed.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Moving on to the next item on the agenda, we have miscellaneous. Are there any miscellaneous items? Recognize Senator Donald Manglonia.
Thank you, Chair. The HQW meeting scheduled for Thursday may be rescheduled to the following week, but I will make that determination by tomorrow as soon as I get confirmation from other members of their availability. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Recognize Senator Corina McGovern.
Thank you, Chair. Also, the Committee on REDP will be having a committee meeting with OPD tomorrow at 1:30. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is adjournment. Can I recognize Senator Corina McGovern for the proper motion?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I offer a motion to adjourn this meeting subject to the chairwoman.
Motion has been made and it has been seconded. Are there any objections to the motion? There being no objections raised on the motion hereby passes. This meeting is hereby adjourned. It is now 11:37 a.m.